With this build, you get to zip around like the Flash with dash and air dash, slam into the ground like an enraged gorilla, throw people into walls and into other people, and pop people's heads off with your enhanced cyber hands. If that hasn't convinced you to try this build, then I don't know what will. The gorilla arms plus the relic upgrades provided by Songbird in the Phantom Liberty DLC allow for an incredibly strong late game build that is the most fun I've had playing Cyberpunk 2077 so far. A few things to highlight before getting into the details of the build are that this is not designed for stealth. While stealth is certainly possible with this build, it's not been optimized for it, so it won't necessarily be easy. You will have to be patient or be willing to miss out on some optional rewards for completing missions with stealth. But the idea is you will be having so much fun just blasting and punching your way through hordes of enemies, you simply won't care. To use the best SMG, or at least my favourite and the most fun to use, called Erebus, you will need to make sure you choose to side with Reed and Phantom Liberty. Honestly, this build is so much more fun with this weapon. It's still fun without it, but to get the most out of your SMG perks, I would make sure you get it. This build is very much designed for late game, so if you're going to use it, I would spend some time doing NCPD scanner missions to level up a bit before getting into the harder content, and try and do Phantom Liberty as soon as you can. When it comes to clothes, just wear whatever gives you the highest armor rating, and don't worry about it too much. Alright, so let's get into the details of the build, starting with the character attributes and perks. So by the time you are level 60, this is what you want your attributes to look like. Body 20, reflexes 20, technical ability 20, cool 18 and intelligence 3 because we don't have a cyber deck. So there is literally no reason to put any points into intelligence, and we'll talk about relic in a sec. So we'll start with body. So you want to take Painkiller, Comeback Kid, Speed Junkie and Army of One, all three of Adrenaline Rush, Juggernaut, Calm Mind and Pain to Gain. You also want 2 levels of Wrecking Ball, Breakthrough, Clapback, Epicenter, 3 levels of Quake, which is one of the most fun skills to use in the game by far, Aftershock, Ripple Effect, and Finisher Savage Sling. And Ripple Effect you can only get if you have Calm Mind and Aftershock unlocked, and then that unlocks the ability to unlock Ripple Effect. And then looking at reflexes, you need Slippery, Muscle Memory, Multitasker, Can't Touch This, 2 levels of Dash, very important, Mad Dash, 3 levels of Air Dash, another one of the most fun perks to use in the game for sure, Aerial Acrobat, Aerodynamic, Tailwind, 2 levels of Ready, Rested, Reloaded, Tunnel Vision, Spice of Life, Mind Over Matter, Gun Dancer, Practice Makes Perfect, Shoot to Chill, Salt in the Wound, and I also take Submachine Fun because I use an assault rifle and a submachine gun. And then you can also get Air Kerenzikov if you've unlocked Gun Dancer and Aerial Acrobat. So, moving on to technical ability, you want 2 perks of all things cyber, Driver Update, Chipware Connoisseur, Lucky Day, Chrome Constitution, Renaissance Punk, all 3 levels of License to Chrome, Extended Warranty, Built Different, Cyborg, Ambidextrous, and most importantly Edge Runner, which is the ability to go Cyber Psycho, which increases the more over your Cyberware limit you get. Talk about that a little bit more when we cover Cyberware. You will also want Glutton for War and 2 levels of Health Freak. Moving on to Cool, you want Feline Footwork, Blind Spot, all 3 levels of Ninjutsu, Creeping Death, and Vanishing Act. All of this I guess is kind of optional because it's things that are only useful for stealth purposes. If you want this build to be viable at all for stealth, I would definitely recommend taking all of these. And also Killer Instinct, which is really useful for your silenced pistol because it will let you see if you actually have the ability to kill them in one shot. because if you don't, you're going to get spotted. So super vital perk for any kind of stealthing. Intelligence, we don't take anything. And then from the relic tree, we want to take first jailbreak, then limiter removal, then vulnerability analytics and machine learning, and then emergency cloaking and sensory protocol, again, so that the build is at least a little bit viable when it comes to stealth. So looking at cyberware next, this is all of the cyberware I use specifically for this build. Obviously feel free to change it up if you want to, but as a guide, this is what I went for. So mechatronic core, Korenzikov boost system and axolotl, gorilla arms, just the standard gorilla arms, Rara Avis, I think that's how you say that, dense marrow, universal booster, neofiber, stabber, Korenzikov, cellular adapter, optical camo, chitin. And then for operating system, I use a berserk, specifically the Militech berserk iconic, Kuroshi stalker optics. This is a quest thing, so ignore that. Handle wrap, ballistic coprocessor, adrenaline booster, micro rotors, blood pump, and reinforced tendons. Looking at our gear, our first weapon is a modified version of the D5 Copperhead. So I just found this on an enemy somewhere in Dogtown, which is a tier 5++ D5 Copperhead, and then I put the Firecracker mod on it, which you get from defeating the big robot thing in the first Phantom Liberty mission. I forget what it's called, apologies, maybe I'll edit the name of it in. And then the second weapon you want is Erebus, which you only get by picking Reed's side in the Phantom Liberty questline. If you don't want to pick Reed's side, but you still want to use an SMG, I would recommend using Fenris. If I just quickly show you Fenris, sort by type, if I can find it. There it is, Fenrir, sorry, not Fenris, Fenrir. So yeah, and then obviously you can upgrade it to tier 5 because it's an iconic weapon. And then for my third slot, I went for Death and Taxes, purely because it shoots 2 bullets at once, so it's really helpful in stealth to make sure you actually kill the person that you're aiming at straight away, so that you don't get spotted. And then obviously I've just modded a suppressor onto it for that reason. And then for what we want to use on our quick access, we have our blood pump, cyberware, and then I mostly use frag grenades, to be honest. And then when I want to or need to be stealthy, I switch to optical camo. But you don't actually need optical camo equipped to be able to use it, because if you have ninjutsu, it will just proc when you sprint during crouch, so you can still use it even without having it equipped, which is pretty neat. Now I will stop yapping and leave you with some clips of the build in action.